Hey everybody, Worldwide Jew here, and on this episode of the Worldwide Jew podcast, we are going to be talking about who is a Jew, along with the descriptive explanations and definitions to put the words of who is the Jew into clear, different meanings in the context of whoever listens to this episode of the podcast. Sounds confusing, but if you listen to this episode, it'll start to make a bit of sense by the end. First, we are going to be starting with two basic definitions, one found in an online dictionary and another one found on Wikipedia. The dictionary definition of a Jew is a member of the people and cultural community whose traditional religion is Judaism and who can trace their origins through the ancient Hebrew people of Israel to Abraham, the first Jew. A member refers to a singular thing, such as one person who is part of the Jewish people who have a culture that practices the religion of Judaism, and Jews can trace back their origins to the first Jew, Abraham, also known as Avraham Avinu. All Jews are a descendant of him. However, there are converts which will later be addressed in this episode. The Wikipedia definition of a Jew is that Jewish people are an ethno-religious group and a nation originating from the Israelites and Hebrews. An ethno-religious group is an ethnic group that is unified by a common religious background, and a Jew is someone who originates from the ancient Hebrew Israelites or Hebrews. An ethnic group is a category of people who identify with each other, usually on the basis of presumed similarities such as common language, ancestry, history, society, or culture. As in regarding an ethnic group, according to the Wikipedia definition, Jews have the language of Hebrew or Ivrit, as Hebrew is called Ivrit in Hebrew, have a long history dating back to the ancient Hebrews, starting with Avraham Avinu, and share the same collective history, society, and culture. While I can't go into detail about Jewish history, society, and culture, that would make this episode super long, like 5 hours, and I do not have the time for that. Culture may vastly differ on so many different levels and has so many different definitions that I cannot explain in this episode. One factor that influences culture, though, depends on where you are from, which is the main focus of the podcast. Talking about Jewish communities that have slightly different culture, but in the end share one united culture, the culture of Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people. As in regard to a common religious background, some Jews, in my personal experience, are not religious and do not practice any of the religious aspects of Judaism, while there are some Jews who are religious and practice the Jewish religion and follow the 615 mitzvot or commandments of the Torah, Jewish Bible, in terms of saying that Jews are an ethno-religious group. However, Jews are linked together by the same language, ancestry, history, society, and culture. But furthermore, some Jews might not even practice certain aspects of culture, but somehow, in some way, in my personal opinion, and you can totally disagree with me on this, culture is passed down through the ages, whether you like it or not, and is permeated in the current generation living today. So, for direct descendants of Avraham Avinu, for one to be considered a Jew, according to Jewish law, also known as halakha, you have to be born to a Jewish mother. The Torah does not specifically state anywhere that matrilineal descent should be used. However, there are several passages in the Torah where the child of a Jewish woman and a non-Jewish man is considered Jewish, and several other passages where the child of a non-Jewish woman and Jewish man is not considered a Jew. Although it does not directly say in the Torah, it does allude to the fact for a descendant of Abraham that you must be born to a Jewish mother. Here's a quote from the Virtual Jewish Library's article on who is a Jew. In Deuteronomy 7:1-5, God prohibits intermarriage, saying, He, i.e. the non-Jewish male spouse, will cause your child to turn away from me, and they will worship the gods of others. The Torah does not include a similar concern for the child of a non-Jewish female spouse. From this, one can infer that the child of a non-Jewish male spouse is Jewish and can be turned away from Judaism. But the child of a non-Jewish female spouse is not Jewish, and turning away is not an issue. Also, Leviticus 24:10 speaks about the son of an Israelite woman and an Egyptian man as among the community of Israel, i.e., a Jew. On the other hand, in Ezra 10:2-3, the Jews returning to Israel vowed to put aside their non-Jewish wives and children born to those wives. They could not have put aside those children if those children were Jews. As a result, mere belief in the principles of Judaism does not make one a Jew. Similarly, non-adherence by a Jew to the 613 mitzvot or commandments, or even formal conversion to another religion, does not make one lose one's Jewish status. Thus, the immediate descendants of all female Jews, even apostates, are still considered to be Jews, as those of all their female descendants. Even those descendants who are not aware that they are Jews or practice a religion other than Judaism are defined by this perspective as Jews, as long as they come from an unbroken female line of descent. As a corollary, the children of a Jewish father and a non-Jewish mother are not considered to be Jews by halakha, Jewish law, unless they formally convert according to halakha, even if raised fully observant in the mitzvot, commandments. However, there are some Jews in the Reform movement, quotation marks for movement, where a child is considered Jewish if the father is Jewish and the mother is not Jewish. Voices within the Reform movement say that the law, which changed to the matriarchal around 2,000 years ago, originally in the Torah, the offspring was determined by patriarchal descent, and was based on the tragic circumstances the Jewish people were facing, was once helpful but is no longer relevant. Reform referring to New Judaism, that is, for the lack of a better word, less stringent in following halakha. The movements, quotation marks, that follow halakha more stringently is Orthodox and Conservative. To understand more about Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, and Reconstructionist Judaism, search it up, because that is not what the podcast is about. But I might do a future episode of it about, Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist, way in the future after all the episodes that I planned, and that is a lot, at least a few years. I'm just mentioning Reform as a perspective to mention different definitions of who is considered a Jew. According to less stringent movements of Judaism, Reform, Conservative, and Reconstructionists, the dictionary and Wikipedia definition satisfies the cultural or ethnic Jewish part, but might not fit the religious part to a high degree. Some might ask, how can a convert be Jewish if they are not a direct descendant of Abraham Avinu and are not united through language, ancestry, history, society, or culture? Abraham Avinu made the covenant with Hashem, God, all his descendants, that they will follow the rules of God. But what if one is not a descendant of Abraham and wants to become Jewish, as Jews are an ethno-religious group? This quote from Chabad.org explains it pretty well. The covenants with Abraham are unconditional and eternal, but they are limited to the but they are limited only to the offspring of Abraham. The covenant Sinai, on the other hand, included many people that had joined the Jewish people in their exodus from Egypt. Indeed, even those who were biological descendants were required to enter into this covenant. So all Jews at that point were effectively converts. Furthermore, from this we know that it is possible to become an heir to Abraham even if you are not a biological descendant. Indeed, a convert is called a child of Abraham for ritual purposes, including marriage. You only need to enter into the same covenant as the Jewish people did at Sinai, in the same way as they did. These are indeed the requirements of Jewish law. Also, being Jewish means being a member of a larger single entity, the Jewish people. This explains why no person can make himself a Jew without the agency of a rabbinic tribunal. The tribunal represents both God and the entire Jewish nation. Although converts have not experienced the same history or ancestry as direct descendants, they join the nation of Kalal Yisrael, the Jewish people, and they accept the covenants, i.e. 613 commandments, just as the Jews did on Mount Sinai. I think another definition would be anyone who is a descendant of Abraham Avinu or accepts all the rules, i.e. 613 commandments of the Torah, because there are people who are not ethnically connected but are religiously by following the law. So this definition would kind of go against the one that Wikipedia stated and the stuff said in the Wikipedia article that I mentioned earlier. By being a convert, you have to went through a conversion halakhically, according to Jewish law, i.e. the Orthodox way, in order to be considered a part of the Jewish nation by accepting all the 613 commandments of Judaism. In conclusion, what was covered is the two basic definitions of being Jewish, along with the breakdown stating the origins of Jews with Abraham, along with how Jews are an ethno-religious group, breaking down the ethnic and religious part of the definition. It was then stated, if you are a direct descendant of Abraham, then you must be born to a Jewish mother to be a Jew, although there are other perspectives on this. Finally, that converts are considered Jews because, like some non-Jews who joined the Jews of their migration from Egypt, they accept the 613 mitzvot, and converts who accept the 613 commandments under halakha can become a part of the Jewish nation. On the next episode, I will consider this a kind of introductory episode, is the first real episode featuring Ashkenazim, a Jewish ethnic group originating from Eastern Europe, coming out on March 1st. Peace out, and until next time, this is the Worldwide Jew.